Since I now have dentures that I can actually wear at the same time and I can use to eat, I'm ready to talk about my journey to getting these dentures. I don't think most people will have a similar journey. I'm hoping it'll be a lot shorter and easier for most people. But I also can't say that everything that could go wrong did go wrong, because it didn't. I've heard other stories on here and things that have gone very bad. I mean, there were no infections, there was no failed implants, there was nothing like really bad that happened. It just seemed to be one thing after another. When I finally accepted it was time for dentures, that I really couldn't keep going the way I was going. I was in severe pain every day during shelter at home when I couldn't get dental care. I had several teeth fall out, and so it was time. My dentist referred me to a periodontist who was fabulous. I had never seen him before, but he was great. And in that first meeting, he did the exam and took x-rays, and we had 2 long consultations, and he also did an examination. But at the end, he said he did not see any way of moving forward that wasn't, full dentures. And I had agreed with him. So we made an appointment at his earliest in his schedule, which was about 2 months in advance. And we were going to do all the extractions in one day and he was going to put in 4 bone grafts too. And we decided to do that because even though I didn't want implants at the time, mainly because I couldn't afford them, I wanted my bones to be strong so that if I needed to go that way in the future, I could. So we made the appointment. He told me to go back and talk to my dentist about immediate dentures, and he would see me back in 2 months. So I did. I went back and saw my dentist, and he was very adamant against immediate dentures. He said I would hate them. It's a waste of money. I'd only be able to wear them for about 2 weeks, and then they would start falling out when I ate, and they would start clacking together when I talked. I mean, he really gave no positive advantages as an alternative. He was very adamant, no immediate dentures. And he had been my dentist for a long time, so, I trusted him, and that's the way we went. When I showed up for the extractions, the periodontist asked me where my immediate dentures were. And I said he didn't want it. He was adamant that it was a waste of money. And so I should have known something was wrong then, because he kind of rolled his eyes. But we went forward, and because I'm kind of a control freak, I guess, I didn't want to be sedated at all. I just wanted the local injections. And so he started on the upper jaw, and he got all the extractions done and the bone grafts done, although I don't remember how many were on top and how many were on the bottom, but there were 4 altogether. But as he got near the end of that, he said that all the injections he was having to give me were causing blood pressure problems, and he did not want to continue giving me more injections to do the lowers at the same time. He said we were, I don't remember if my blood pressure was going up or my blood pressure was going down, but I didn't want to risk my general health by completing it all in one day. So we made an appointment for the following week to finish it. And I got home, and I have to tell you, I was pretty miserable. You know, I had all these sutures in the top, and I was in a lot of pain. And I was only eating tiny little bowls of easy food, like yogurt and sherbet and mashed potatoes. But something happened after about 3 days that helped me with the pain a lot, and I'll talk about that in another video because it didn't really slow things down here. And then, so a week later, went back and he did all the bottom, took all the bottom teeth out, did the rest of the bone grafts, sewed it up, and he said it's probably going to be, 2 or 3 months before my gums will be healed enough and the swelling has gone down enough that the dentist can start doing the impressions for the dentures. So it's like, okay, so he wanted me to come back because my dentist wanted him to discharge me before he would do it. But in the meantime, I started throwing bone spurs or had bone fragments. It's kind of unclear to me which they were. There were 3. The first one was right here, right under the nose, and it was really pointy and it was very big. I mean, I couldn't blow my nose, it hurt so much. And so I had to go back in and he had to do surgery to get that one under control. I don't know, I mean, I know I heard his drills going and stuff. So it wasn't just something little. He had to do surgery, open up my gums again, and take care of it. Then, so that kind of delayed healing a little bit. And then the next month, I had 2 more, but they were thinner. And the one, he was able to just grab and pull out. And the other one was the day, I was so close to being ready to go back to get my molding, my impressions done, that he was able to just to get in and snap it off. And he said it'll heal over fine. So now it's like at least 3 months later because of that additional surgery. And so I went back to the dentist. And the first visit he did custom trays, which I still haven't figured out why you need custom trays. But the first one, he used all that goop and he made custom trays. And then, like, I don't know, 3 weeks later, I went back and he did the next step. And then, like, a month later, he did the next step. And a month later, he did the next step. And it took me from the beginning of March to the beginning of June, so 3 months, to actually get my dentures. And, I was thrilled. To me, they looked great. It's not like I looked at them really closely in the mirror, but my teeth had been so horrible looking my whole life that, just looking at them in my hand, I mean, they looked great. So I went and he had me come back in a week and to just check on things. And I couldn't wear them. I mean, they fit perfectly. The bottom ones fit perfectly. The upper ones fit perfectly. But I couldn't eat with them. I couldn't eat because even if I put a small spoonful of like yogurt in my mouth, I would immediately start gagging. It was like my tongue was too big for my mouth. I couldn't fit food and the dentures and my tongue all in my mouth, which I know now sounds kind of stupid, but that's how it felt. I mean, that's how it felt to me. And so that first day, when I couldn't eat anything, I took them out. I cleaned them, I put them in the case. And when I tried them the next day, not to eat, just to wear them, because I wanted to go out in public with them, I started gagging, right away. And when I went back to see my dentist a week later, he said that I just need to wear them more and I will get used to them. He said, try sucking on a hard candy. So that's what I did. And sometimes sucking on the hard candy helped a little bit. I mean, the way it works is it makes you swallow the saliva faster, I think, is how it works. Although I'm not positive, but I think that's how it works. So, okay. I guess they need to start construction on the next street now. So, I guess I will come back. Well, I can still hear that construction, but it's not so loud. So hopefully it won't interfere with this. So he just told me to keep sucking on the hard candies and to just keep practicing at it, keep at it. So it just was not getting any better. In fact, it was probably getting a little worse. And I was eating a whole crap load of candy. And so I went to YouTube. And before that, I had never looked up anything on YouTube or watched any videos that weren't sewing related. So when I searched for dentures, though, there were all these videos. And I found one that said the gagging most often is due to the upper palate on the upper dentures extending too far and making you gag. And she said, just go to your dentist and have them cut that back a little bit, grind it back a little bit. So I did that, and he was like, absolutely not. He goes, your dentures will fall out if I do that. I said, well, they stay in fine right now, you know, both the uppers and the lowers without any adhesive. I said, I'll wear adhesive. He goes, no, it won't be enough. They will just fall out. I'm not going to do it. So it was like, okay, yet another thing to figure out. The video I watched did say if your dentist wouldn't do it, to get out a Dremel and do it yourself. But honestly, I wasn't really feeling like taking these dentures I had waited so long for and grinding them down myself. So I just kept trying, and some days I could wear them for a half hour, but most days I could only wear them for like 5 or 10 minutes, and I could never eat with them. But I was able to put them in long enough to go to water aerobics, although I couldn't do the counting out loud with them because that would make me start gagging. And there was more than once where I had to go to the edge of the pool and take them out, the uppers out, to get my gagging under control before I could continue with the class. So it was not a good, solution. So I finally decided, well, I'll put adhesive in. I'll put adhesive on the lower ones first. I'll sit very still, like for 15 minutes, so it gets set up really well. And then I will do the same thing on the uppers. And I just sat in an oversized chair in the living room. I didn't talk, I didn't eat, I didn't drink, I didn't move my head at all. And I gave that adhesive time to set up. And as soon as I stood up and started to walk across the room, the gagging started. And I was like, it's okay. They're not going to fall out when I'm gagging. They're just not. I'm not going to be able to expel them. So just ignore it. Just keep going, keep going. And then as I continued to ignore the gagging, then by the time I had walked to my bedroom, I started throwing up. The gagging was so bad and my body was so upset I was not getting rid of this foreign crap in my mouth that I just started throwing up. Now I'm at the bathroom sink. I've got the uppers and lowers, with the adhesive really strong in place, throwing up and trying to, take them out. I figured the lower ones would probably be easier to get out first, so I did that. And I had to set it over on the counter, so I'm not setting it in the vomit in the sink. And I finally got the uppers out. And then I, rinsed out my mouth. I took some deep breaths, and I said, that's it, I can't wear them. I tried really hard. I kept them, glued in place, for the lack of a better word. And all it did was make me start vomiting like I had done in the beginning when I first tried to eat with them. So I took them out, I cleaned them, I put them in the case, and I knew what I had to do. I had to get implants. And I was at this point wanting implants, but it wasn't really the best time financially. But it had to be done. I couldn't go through life with no teeth all the time. I was still working. I still had clients I needed to meet with from time to time. And I just, I wasn't going to keep going that way. So I got some financing and I went back to the periodontist and explained why I needed implants so soon. And he shook his head at me. And he asked, he said, "Did you try just taking a little off the palate?" I said, "He wouldn't do it. He said they would fall out." So he said, "Fine." He goes, "I've got a cousin. She had the same problem with her dentures. And once we switched her to implants, because then once you get implants and they snap in, you don't need that whole part at the top of your mouth covering the palate of your mouth." And he said, as soon as she switched to that kind with no palate on the top of the upper dentures, all of her gagging and vomiting stopped. So it's like, okay, well, that's what I've got to do. So he took more x-rays to see how the bone grafts went. And because now it's been 9 months, 10 months since the extractions, it's not like I gave up on these dentures right away. And he said the bone grafts did well. He goes, "You've got plenty of bone to support the implants." So he said he really wanted to do 4 in the upper. On the upper dentures, you really try to do 4. He said he could get away with 2 on the lower. And I can't even remember why we decided to do the lower. I wasn't having any problem with the lower dentures, but having the implants and having that pressure be directed from eating into your bone is healthier for your bone anyway. So he went with 2 on the lower and 4 on the upper. We made an appointment for it. And his first appointment was almost exactly 1 year from the date of my initial extractions. So now we're 1 year into this, 12 months. He did this, and he got all of the implants in place in one visit. It was a lot easier than pulling all that teeth and doing all those bone grafts. And he put in the implants and the little locators that get screwed into them. And, he told me, he goes, "Right now they're the tightest they will be, the most secure in the bone for the next couple of months." He goes, "Because now they will start getting looser and looser and looser until the bone finally grabs it and starts growing around it." He goes, "So you have to be very careful with them, for this first 2 months, because you're likely, there's a chance you can dislodge them." So I was like really freaking, careful with them. And then over the holiday week, when both my dentist and my periodontist were on vacation, I was just sitting at the computer and this screw fell out. And I was like, "Oh my God, my implants are falling out." And I kind of freaked out. I left a message everywhere, but of course nobody got back to me until after the holiday week. And they said, "It's okay. You don't have to worry about it. It happens all the time." It wasn't the actual implant. It was just, a screw. And so I didn't do anything about it. And I was just very careful, for that 2 months, 3 months. I guess it was almost 3 months, because it was the end of February then that I went back to see him. And he checked them. He said they're great. They're in good location. They're nice and firm in there. He goes, you can go back and have your dentures switched to snap-ins, or if he's going to do new dentures, you know, he can go ahead and start all that. Because he had told me earlier that I couldn't go in and start making trays and stuff because the implants were going to be so loose until they were fully, you know, in there. Because you don't want them like falling out when they get stuck in that goop stuff. So I went back and you know, my dentist said that he can just have the dentures I have. He can just have them retrofitted at the lab to have the little snappy parts, you know, put in. And it wasn't going to take nearly as long as it did the first time, which I guess was like, I don't know, was it like 4 months? So he said, you know, it'll be much quicker. And so he did this, whatever he needed to do that day. And then I came back like a month later and he slid some little metal casings on top of the locators that were in my mouth. And he did that at the end of the visit and had told me to be careful, that they were protecting the implant, the locator part of the implant that was there. And then he called me the next day and had me to go back because he was supposed to take the imprints with those little slide-on metal pieces in place. So I went back and he did the, you know, he took the imprints, and then it was like 6 weeks until, and I called him. I was like, I thought this was going to be a lot quicker. And he goes, yeah, they just came in, and so you can come in tomorrow. So I did. I went in, and at that point he had, actually I don't even remember what he did in that visit, but I went back because the teeth were already on it and it was already molded to my gum before. So, I mean, all they really had to do was get it so that those things would snap in. So we did whatever we did that visit, and he said, you know, I'll call you when they come back from the lab. And I think that was the last visit before they came back. But we had gone from, I was discharged from the periodontist at the end of February. My dentist couldn't see me till the middle of March, even though I made the appointment 2 months ahead of time. And so we're at the beginning of March, and I didn't get them back completed for 3 months. So I went in. I found out that day that he had sold his practice, and it was the last day. It was his like last patient. So we were talking for a few minutes while he waited for the new guy that had bought his business to clear out of one of the rooms. And he was saying, I told him, I'm so excited about being able to eat salad again. I was like, I mean, it's not like I'm like the world's best vegetarian or anything, because I'm not a vegetarian, but you know, after a couple of years, you just really miss salad. So he's like, oh, Terry. He goes, you'll never be able to eat salad again. And I was like, what? I mean, I just didn't understand. So we went in, he was able to snap in the upper dentures, and yay, there was nothing covering the palate, so I didn't start gagging. But he was having trouble getting the lower snapped in. And so he said, you know, they're in. And I was like, no, they're not. I can wiggle them around back and forth with my tongue. And he goes, you're just expecting too much. They are in place. So I was like, okay. And I went home, and that was the last time I ever saw that dentist. But they were not snapping in. You know, they were not in place. I tried eating with them one meal, and they weren't in place. They kept moving around, and I couldn't even use adhesive to put them in place because the implant locators at the top were not lined up to fit in the holes. So I tried several more times over the next week to get them to snap in, and they just would not snap in. So I called my periodontist, who had done such a wonderful job on everything he did, and asked his office for a recommendation for someone else because I still can't wear these dentures. And they sent me to a prosthodontist. I guess there's only one group in the whole metropolitan area here in central Ohio. So it was on the other side of the city. And I called. It was going to be a month to get me in. So I waited another month. I could wear my uppers, but not the lowers. So at least I looked, fairly normal in public. I just couldn't eat with them. And there were some challenges talking with them. If you look at my first couple of videos, that was only with the upper dentures, not with both. So I had to concentrate really hard on talking correctly, but I got through it enough. So I went in, I had my consultation with the prosthodontist, and I told him, I said, I just need these locators on the bottom dentures moved so I can snap them in. And he's like looking at everything, and he was able to kind of like rotate them and shove them in place, just to have them snapped in, even though that's not where they fit. And I knew I'd never be able to do that again myself. So they left them in when I left the office that day, in there, so that I could have 2 days of eating with them. I could eat that day and I could eat the next day, and then I should take them out. But he said relocating those bottom snaps is not a big deal. He goes, I can just do that here in the office. But he goes, you've got bigger problems. He said, and I hadn't noticed because I hadn't spent a lot of time looking in the mirror. And you might be able to see it on the early videos, but my upper dentures, the center between your two front teeth was over here, and then the bottoms were angled this way. So the teeth on the denture were too far this way, but they ended up over this way. And he said that he goes, you won't be able to eat with these. He said, none of the molars match up between top and bottom. And he said, you're gonna have problems talking because the location of the teeth, play a big part in how you make sounds. And I just really didn't understand it that much then. But he goes, what we need to do is take all the teeth off. He will contact the lab because he said he recognized the work, because when they put those things in, the lab had to add a metal framework underneath, like in the center of everything, to make them stronger. And he said he recognized the lab's work, so he would contact them, and he would contact my prior dentist and get all the information about what teeth he used, what color, what brand, everything. And then he would tell the lab what he was going to need to do so they could order in whatever parts they needed. So his first appointment to do all that work was 2 months later. That was the first opening he had, because they're a really busy office. So I went in, and then, so when he started doing the work, I had appointments 3 days in a row. And the first day I wore the dentures, the top dentures in, and carried the lower dentures. And he changed the location of the locators on the bottom denture so that he could line them up. And then he had to do all this stuff. I mean, I could tell what some of the stuff was, but not all of it. he took a drill and etched the center line. Like, he took all these measurements with dots here and here and here and maybe here, and then he was lining them up, and with a piece of dental floss, I think. And then where the center of the two front teeth would be, he etched a line in one of the teeth so that they would have, you know, they would have an idea of where to start. And so that was the first. And so he did all this other stuff too, like, and I can't remember if it was which visit. I'll talk about the next visit. So he did that, and I went, it was a long visit. I mean, it was probably an hour and a half long. I came back the next day. I went home with no dentures. He kept them to send to the lab. And then the next day I went back, and the lab had taken the new teeth that he had ordered and set them in wax, but they still kept the bottom part, you know, the same, the part that fit directly against my gums. And then he went through and hand set each of the teeth, because they come like on a strip. He set them where they all needed, and then he started with the trying in. He moved them around in the wax a lot so that he could get a good bite. And then he had this piece of equipment, I don't even know what you would call it, but you put the things in your ears like a stethoscope, only instead of having a stethoscope at the end, it connected to this metal thing, and then he put a plate, I closed my teeth, he put a plate between my teeth, you know, the upper and lower, holding it in place, and then he had me put the little ear things in until they felt like they were even, you know, even, so that he could get a horizontal measurement on my face, because everybody's is a little different. So he did that, he adjusted all the little knobs and stuff, and he got his measurements for the horizontal alignment. And then he did all that stuff with tapping on the little pieces of carbon paper or whatever it is to see which ones were not hitting correctly. And, you know, he looked in my mouth a lot while we were doing it. You know, sometimes I was just like this, and he'd look in through the side, and sometimes he would have me move my mouth, like jet my lower chin out, because, you know, when I first met with him, he said not only were the teeth not in the right place, but the alignment, my uppers went down too far, and so they were hitting my uppers, I mean the ones on the bottom, prematurely. So I was never, that was going to close it, and I was never going to get my molars to come close to each other. So, you know, he had a lot of adjusting to do to get these to work right. And he got them all set, and then we started with making sounds, you know. I told him when I first got them, but I couldn't fit them in right away, I was having a lot of trouble with saying the word Nike. And I don't know if it's psychological or not, but I had a really hard time saying Nike, that K-E at the end, and words with multiple S's at the end, like dresses. I sounded like a snake. It's still kind of hard, but I think a lot of that is because I concentrate on it. So he adjusted the teeth in the wax a long time. You know, he said the TH sound I was having trouble making is because there wasn't enough room for the tongue at the back of my top teeth. He said, you know, your tongue needs to get up there, and if you try it on your own teeth, then, this, those, then. Okay, your tongue hits right behind the front of the lower part of those upper teeth. And if you listen to it, then air flows over the tongue when it's in that position. And the back of my dentures were built up too much. There wasn't enough room for my tongue to get in close enough to make that TH sound. So he went back and he, molded the wax to take out as much of that volume behind the upper teeth, this in the center, and then the TH sound was much easier to make. And then he said for the S's, so if you make an S sound, you can feel air coming out like between some of your teeth that are back further. So finally did all the little adjustments that he wanted to do to try to get my speech as good as possible and get all the teeth lined up properly for chewing. And his assistant had to call the lab to have them come and pick up my stuff at their last run because it was getting close to the deadline. And he wanted me to be able to have my dentures the next day. That appointment was over 2 hours long. I mean, he really worked at them. He really was like an artist working on something. So I went back the next day, which was the third visit. And I was thinking I'd just be in there like 10 minutes, come pick up my dentures. But no, it was like another hour, hour and a half of him adjusting things even more, even though the teeth were already set in the acrylic. With that S sound, he went through and he buffed or ground or whatever a little bit off some of the teeth in the back so that that snake sound wouldn't be so prevalent. And he went through asking me to do, say a bunch of sounds all over again. And it seems like he had to adjust a couple other things. But when he was done, I could put my dentures in. I could talk with them. He said, I know you're going to be anxious to eat with them. He said, please, use the soft food for at least a couple days. You've had a lot of experience eating soft food with just your gums, but just don't go too crazy right away. That was it. I left. With these dentures, my son asked me to not ever do that because it's kind of like creepy looking, Mom. But I mean, I've never been a big smiler because my teeth were always horrible my whole life. I mean, as a little girl, they were crooked, they were discolored. So I was always a closed mouth, smiler like this. Now, when I don't think about it, once in a while I actually open my mouth when I smile, which is a nice feeling. These are those dentures. They're the original ones I had made, but they've been redone by putting in all new teeth, putting them in the right place, redoing the lower things that snap in. And now I've got dentures that I can wear, which makes me very happy. I mean, they're making me very happy. 20 months was a really long time to go without any teeth, but I learned a lot. I mean, I learned a lot about eating food and that, I just didn't feel comfortable eating in public with no teeth. Almost all the restaurant food we ate, we had it as takeout to bring home. And now, I can do what I want. I can eat what I want. Well, mostly what I want. Some things still scare me a little bit, but I've got teeth. They don't make me gag. They don't make me throw up. I can talk with them. I can eat with them. I can leave them in all day if I want. I'm finally there. It took 20 months, but this is where I thought I would be, a year and a half ago. not now. So I'm ready to let this pity party go. This really long road was a huge pity party for me. It was like every step of the way was another pity party. And it was during that 20-month period that I had to start this channel. It was just like, I felt like I was never going to stop having pity parties. And you know, I don't remember if I put it in that first video, but the person in my family that I could complain to the most, because we're in the same household, is my youngest son. He's an adult, so I'm not complaining to a minor. But I knew I was complaining a lot, because at one point he suggested I go spend the weekend with one of my other sons. He couldn't take it anymore. I mean, his mom was always feeling lousy. She was always complaining. She was always depressed. And he just needed me to get out of the house, get a change of scenery, and, you know, come back with a better attitude. Even though that's not what he told me, I know that's why he wanted me to go spend the weekend with my middle son and his family, which was actually a really good idea, for more than just this reason. But so now I've got teeth. That pity party, I'm ready to cross that one off. I've found the silver lining. I've got the dentures. My teeth don't hurt anymore, okay? I mean, I was in such pain that last couple of years when I was trying to put off getting dentures until I retired, that it's just the absence of pain that's so wonderful. Especially now, like, I can eat with them. I had something recently that I wasn't able to eat even with teeth for a while. Oh, I think it was cashew chicken, because the chicken is soft, the vegetables are all small, but they're crunchy, and it's got nuts in it. So my teeth towards the end were so bad I could not eat cashew chicken. I can eat cashew chicken now, so that's great. So until next time, if you're having a lot of problems getting to where you want to be with your dentures, hopefully it's not 20 months, but keep a positive attitude, because it could be 20 months. And if it's not, you are so much luckier than me. So until next time, thank you. Look at the silver lining.